But I'm back for more because I'm going to be talking about the Eastern Conference. I had already made my West Conference video. If you haven't seen that, watch it, or you'll find it somewhere on my channel. Now, I had made my list a day ago or 2 days ago, so as I read this, I'm going to see how accurate or how full-heartedly I still believe in this list, which is going to be interesting to me. Now, I am going to start off with the 15 through 11 seed, just because those are the teams that won't be in the play-in tournament. They won't be in the playoff contention, and they're teams that they're just going to be there pretty much. Yes, they do. Some of them do have young, good cores, but I don't believe that those good cores are really enough to make a big splash in the pool that is the East this year. Because from how it looks like in this list that I made, a lot has changed. A lot has changed in the East. Now, from the 15th to 11th seed, I do have the Pacers at 15th, the Pistons at 14th, Magic 13th, Wizards 12th, and the Knicks at 11th. You can honestly switch the Knicks and the Wizards. You can switch any of these. It doesn't really matter to me. I believe that although they can be good teams, they can have their moments in the sun, these aren't the teams that are really going to be pushing toward the end of the season to make a legitimate playoff run or to make a legitimate play-in tournament run. The Knicks added Jalen Brunson, who's a good piece. The Wizards are going to get Bradley Beal back, who was injured last year. They have Kyle Kuzma. They have some pieces around them as well. But like I said, the East just got way better, and the Wizards don't have the talent nor the stars or they just don't have the talent to really compete with who's above them. And the Wizards being as low as they are for me is surprising, but it's not. The only reason it's a little surprising is because a lot of people do kind of covet as Bradley Beal as this like top guy, and sorry for the quotation marks, but I don't really see him as a top guy. He's more in like tier 4 to tier 3 of the better players in the NBA, but that's a video for another day. At the 10th seed, I do have the Charlotte Hornets, mainly because they do have LaMelo Ball, and I feel like LaMelo Ball is one of those special talents that can raise your team to better heights than not expected. They lost Montrezl Harrell. We know what's going on with, I'm not even going to talk about him, but it's interesting to see what the Hornets are going to do. I'm not too sure how Gordon Hayward is doing with his injury, how his recovery is going, but let's say that he misses at least the first half of the season. Their best players are LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier, which is a little cause for concern because those aren't the guys you want to be the best players on your team. At least, LaMelo Ball at this point in his career is a good 2 or 3, but to be the main guy while Terry Rozier is also trying to be the main guy, I don't think it's going to take them very high into the standings with how loaded the East is this year. Because at the 9th seed, I have the Raptors. They do have the Rookie of the Year in Scotty Barnes. They did better than a lot of people thought they would have done last year. I think they were one of those teams who people were assuming pretty much since Kawhi left, they thought they would be a lottery team, but they've been proving people wrong. Nick Nurse has been showing people that he really is one of the better coaches in the NBA. And I just think that, and they were also able to steal some games for the Sixers last year. You can say that isn't too impressive because of, Joel was injured, Harden wasn't playing that good, Maxey was playing all right, but they still pushed them to, 6 games, and it was something to watch. It was something that made me think they will be a better team next year. And honestly, to me, Scotty Barnes is one of those players who has Defensive Player of the Year potential. But that's again a video for another day. At the 8th seed, and I wanna put another team as the 8th seed, but this team did better than them last year, so I feel that it's just not fair. I'm not saying that everything has to be fair because nothing is fair, but just on how these two teams performed differently last year is the reason I have them where they're at right now. At the 8th seed, I have the Bulls. They started off the season white hot last year. They were doing incredible. DeMar DeRozan was doing his thing. He was in MVP contention or MVP talks. However, after the Lonzo injury, they did really take a step back. They kind of were plagued with injuries pretty much in that second half of the season last year. Zach LaVine had messed up his thumb. Caruso was out. Alonzo Ball was out. Vucevic was really having a down year. So I know you can say that, oh, well, all these guys are going to be healthy and Vooch is just going to have a better season. Yes, you can say that's true, but to me, the East just improved so much. Not only by the players that went to the East, even though I don't think there were that many changes. Well, I mean, there kind of was. All right. So I'm sorry to the Bulls fans. I want to talk about y'all more and why I think y'all can be better than what y'all are or what I have y'all as. But there's just, I want to talk about the other teams more. I'm sorry, Bulls fans. I'm sorry. Now, on top of the Bulls, I have the Heat. Now, in my list, I don't really have the Heat at 7. I have the Heat at 6. But when I think about it, it's hard to say that the Nets, and I have the Nets at 7, the Heat at 6. But right now, I'm changing it. So I have Bulls 8, Heat 7, and Nets 6. Now, I don't want to say the Heat are going to be a worse team or a bad team because I know they're not going to be a bad team. The thing about the Heat is they are a team. They're united. But they don't have the talent that most of these other teams have. Yes, they have the work ethic and all that. But when you're drafting players, when your main players are guys who are second-round picks or low lottery picks, it's just hard to compete with some of the other teams that do have that one guy, have that other guy, and just have a kind of better overall roster. Even though the Heat have a really good winning culture and a really good coach in Spoelstra, it's hard to see them beating some of the more talented teams. I was watching a video from Kenny who was saying, and this is Kenny for real, who was saying that the two teams he fears for is the Bulls and the Heat, just because he looks at teams, or he looks at this team, right, the Bulls and the Heat, and he compares it to another team, and he's like, am I taking this team or am I taking this team? I'm taking the other team. Am I taking this team or am I taking this team? I'm taking the other team. And that's kind of how it goes with the rest of the list for me. Like, I see the Bulls and I see the Heat, and I'm like, those are good teams. But I look at the other teams and I'm like, these are better teams. Like, I don't know what you want me to say other than that. At 6, I have the Nets. Like I said, the Nets are a team that should be higher just off of talent alone. They have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They have Ben Simmons. But for them, it's more of, are they going to be healthy and can they work together? And not just are they going to be healthy, can they somehow find a way to play together? You can say that has to do with health, but somehow, some way, the Nets have found a way to not play with each other. The Nets have found a way to get guys that, and Kevin Durant is the exception to this, or at least he was until he wanted that trade request, but the Nets have found a way to get guys that do not want to play basketball. And even though they do want to play basketball, to them, basketball is now 100%. And I feel like that's something that's going to be friction with them. Is to Kevin Durant, basketball is everything. He wants to go out there, he wants to win, and he's willing to do whatever. But for Kyrie Irving, the NBA is a job. To him, it's work. And if something more important comes up, something more important came up, what you want me to do? It is basketball at the end of the day. And to Kyrie Irving, that's just what it is. He's someone talented enough to, if he says that, you're kind of just going to have to accept it. Even though you don't feel good about him leaving and you don't feel good about what he's doing to your team, you're kind of going to just have to accept it. That's something that the Nets did to themselves. You can say the same about Ben Simmons, who is extremely talented, has the potential to do many great things, but to him, basketball isn't his main priority. It might not even be his second or third main priority. We do not know. Hopefully he is better. He has got rid of all of his demons and he has made strives to go toward a better path for his mental health. But other than that, I really can't say that Ben Simmons is going to come back and he's going to be that all-star player that he was, or even that mentally just assassin that he has been throughout the beginning stages of his career. And I just really want to see what the Nets do. They are another one of those teams who, if they do better than where I say they're at, I'm not surprised. But I have them here for a reason. Above the Nets, I have the Hawks. And I have them above the Nets because I don't think that the Hawks are a more talented team, but I think that they're a more united team. They're a team that basketball is going to be everything. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young are going to go onto that court and they're going to be menaces. They are going to want to fight everybody. They're going to talk shit to everybody. And whatever's the only thing that's going to stop them is your play. Is if you out there and you play as hard as they're playing, and if you're as good and talking as much trash as they're playing, that's the only thing that's going to stop them. You got to match their intensity and you got to match their skill, That's going to be hard for a lot of teams, because I'm someone who I really do think Trae Young is super talented. I think he's probably one of the hardest working NBA players, and he really does put a lot of care into his craft and his game. That's something that's going to push him to be one of the better players in the NBA. And I think that's the same mentality that DeJounte Murray has. Putting them together is something that's going to be really scary for the league next year. I have always believed DeJounte really has that drive in him, especially being from San Antonio and playing those 2 years with Kawhi. He was able to really see that talent, yes, it's awesome to have talent, but it doesn't matter if you don't put in the work. It doesn't matter if you're not in the gym 24/7 doing what you need to do to improve. And that's something that I think both of them have the mentality, and both of them have that chip in their shoulder that we're going to fucking win and you're not going to stop us. You have to kill us. You have to beat us down to stop us. If not, we ain't giving up and we ain't stopping. That's why I feel the Hawks are going to be the Grizzlies of the East. They're going to be young, they're going to be hungry, and they're going to be aggressive. And that's something that they can be a top 3 seed. I do not doubt that. Yes, there are teams a little bit more talented than them, but I don't think there are a lot of teams more hungry and more just intense than them. And that's something that's going to be really fun to watch. At the 4th seed, I have the 76ers. I do expect Joel to be Joel. I expect him to be an MVP contention. The real question with them is James Harden. Is he going to be close to Houston Harden? Is he going to be close to the Nets Harden? Is he going to be last year's Harden? Depending on who you get is going to depend on how high or how good this team is. Maxey will make improvements, but I don't think he'll make the improvements that will be the difference from eliminated in the second round or in the finals or in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's something that really does fall on Joel and Harden. And I mean, that's all I can honestly say about them. They lost Danny Green, but they did get, and then there's another reason I think the Heat might not be as good. They lost PJ Tucker, who wasn't the best player on their team, but he's a really good role player. PJ Tucker is one of those guys who found a role for himself in the NBA, and he's a tryhard in the best way possible. The Sixers have him now. James Harden and PJ were good teammates in Houston. It's good to see them reunited, and it's interesting to see what the Sixers are going to do this year. And then we have the most, I want to say, interesting team in the league, or the most. Now, to me, it's a toss-up between the Cavs and the Hawks on who's going to be the funnest team to watch this season. Because the Hawks and the Cavs are two really young teams with really good players, and they got players that have something to prove. They just added Donovan Mitchell, someone who has not been underperforming in the playoffs, but his team has been underperforming in the playoffs. They're a team that a lot of people expect to do better than what they do. Even last year, I was honestly surprised that the Mavs were able to take those 2 games away from them without Luka. But I was praying on the Jazz downfall, no cap, because I wanted to see it blow up already. I wanted to separate Mitchell from Gobert. I wanted them to be on different teams, and I wanted the Jazz to just go away. They had that identity that I didn't like. They weren't even grit and grind. They weren't super talented. They weren't super hardworking. They weren't really defensive. They're just a good team, but they were honestly in no man's land. They were, yes, a good team, but they didn't have anything that put them over the edge. They had Gobert, who was, yes, good defensively, but they didn't have other defenders. They had Mitchell, who was elite offensively, but they didn't have any other elite offensive players. So they really were in no man's land. They had 2 players that didn't really complement each other's game at all. And I'm honestly really glad that they blew that experiment up. I'm glad that Mitchell's in a different team, and I'm glad that Gobert's in a different team, because I really want to see what these guys do away from each other. And then you do have the improvement from players like Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley, who Evan Mobley for sure I think can be a defensive player of the year one day. Same thing with Jared Allen. They're 2 really good. It's funny how Mitchell really went from 1 Gobert to 2 Goberts. And I think both of these Goberts are. Now you can say that Jared Allen maybe doesn't have the I don't want to say potential, because he does, but the skill that Gobert has, But to me, he does. To me, Jared Allen is just as good as Rudy Gobert. And I think that Evan Mobley has a chance to be better than both of those guys. So the Cavs do really have a young, good squad. They have a lot to prove this year, and I'm happy to see, and I'm interested to see where they take it. With the second seed, I have the Celtics, who were the second seed last year. They started the season really bad, ended it really great. I want to see them start off really great and end off really great. I want to see Jason Tatum take that next level and be in that MVP contention talk. If not him, at least Jaylen Brown, because I feel like one of them does have that potential. I expect them to be one of the better teams defensively. I expect them to be top 1, top 2 in defense, top 3, top 4 in offense. And, I mean, those are just combinations to have a really good team. They made the finals last year. To me, I bet they're expecting to make the finals this year. At least that's what they're hoping for. They added some players that can help them make that run, like Malcolm Brogdon, who they got from the Pacers, Danilo Gallinari, however he got injured, and I believe he's out for the remainder of the season. So it sucks for that. But they were good without him last year. I expect them to be good without them this year. How good they can be, I don't know. But obviously, I don't have them being the best team in the East because, in my opinion, if they were healthy, the best team in the East is the Bucks. The Bucks would have went back to the finals. Whether they would have beat the Warriors or not is interesting. I feel like they might have a better chance only because the Warriors never really had a good defender to contest against their big men. And Giannis is one of the best big men in the league. So whether or not they would have found a way to stop him is something that we will wait to see. But, I mean, Giannis might be the best player in the league right now. He might be the best player in the world. And if it's not him, there's only a handful of people that you can say is the best player in the world. And Giannis is up there. So having him back, having Middleton back, having Drew Holiday, having everybody that they're going to have hopefully be healthy, especially Brook Lopez, who missed a good chunk of last season, and we know how important he is to their team. Yeah, I just do think that the Bucks would have been the best team last year. I think they would have made the finals last year if everything was in their favor, but it wasn't. And I'm interested to see on what happens this year. Whether or not they can reclaim their crown, whether or not they can make it all the way again, and Giannis can prove that he is that guy. Whether or not they lose in the first round, I don't think they'll lose in the first round. I think Giannis is done losing in the first round. But either way, I mean, I said what I had to say. The Bucks are my number 1 team in the East, and one of the better teams who I think can win the championship next year. And to whoever is watching this, now again, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Let me know where you don't agree with me. Don't argue with me on why. Just let me know your points, what you think. Let me know. Put in the comments below your play-in tournament team and then your top 3 teams in the East. But other than that, thank you for watching so much. If you like what you see, like, subscribe, leave that comment below, leave the engagement. There is more to come. And again, to whoever is watching this, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Bye. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.